A U.S. Marshals task force arrested a 17-year-old for the shooting death of a teenage mother.
17-year-old Ikea Hood was shot and killed over the weekend. She very recently gave birth to a baby girl. According to court documents, 17-year-old Trevon Wright was the one who murdered her. Police say they were in an on and off relationship, and he believed he was the father of the child. He was not, and he found out.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Baby, worrying about me, it ain't gonna get you nowhere. It ain't. Cause what I'm worried about is dancing, being me, and getting that money, no cap.
The door wouldn't budge. Ikea Hood's mother knocked again, calling out her daughter's name, this time louder, sharper. No answer, just the faint rattle of the locked handle and the eerie quiet that had settled over the house. Something felt wrong. Ikea always answered. Always. She tried calling her phone, it went straight to voicemail. That's when she noticed it. The window. Unlatched. Moments later, the door was kicked in. What waited on the other side was every mother's worst nightmare. 17-year-old Ikea Hood was found face down in her bedroom, lifeless. Her infant daughter, just months old, had been crying alone nearby for hours. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a break-in. This was personal. Ikea had dreams. Big ones. A junior at Lancaster High School, she lit up every room with her laugh and had just made the Tigerettes drill team. She was raising her baby with the help of family and trying to make things work with the child's father, an up-and-coming Dallas rapper with a growing fan base and a short temper. What began as an argument over paternity turned deadly. But the real question is, what kind of rage could drive someone to destroy the life of the person who had once trusted them the most? What happened inside that bedroom wasn't just a murder. It was a collapse. And the clues left behind point to a story far more disturbing than anyone expected. Stay with us, because what comes next will change the way you look at young love, loyalty, and jealousy forever. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from viewers around the world. Ikea Hood was born and raised in Lancaster, Texas, a tightly knit city just south of Dallas where neighbors still wave from their porches, and high school football games bring the community together every Friday night. It was in this environment that Ikea learned to lead with love. From a young age, Ikea stood out, not just for her smile, which families say could flip a bad day into a good one, but for her quiet determination. She didn't chase attention, it found her. Whether it was in the classroom, where teachers noted her focus and kindness, or among her friends, where she was known as the listener, the one who would drop everything to help, you always knew where you stood with Ikea. Safe. At Lancaster High School, she became a familiar face in the hallways. But it was her role as a member of the Tigerettes drill team that truly brought her joy. The team wasn't just about performance, it was discipline, teamwork, sisterhood. And for Ikea, it was a space to express herself. Her movements precise, her posture proud. She was finally starting to bloom, finding her rhythm and voice. She had plans. After graduation, she wanted to attend college, maybe stay close to home, maybe not. But either way, she was determined to carve a future for herself. One built not just on dreams, but on action. Those who knew her say she had that rare mix of grit and grace. Then came Iceland. Becoming a mother at 17 isn't easy. The nights are long, the days relentless. But Ikea didn't complain. If anything, it gave her more purpose. Her daughter, Iceland, was her reason to keep pushing. To get up on the days when sleep never came. To keep studying, rehearsing, attending school. Because now it wasn't just about her. She wasn't alone. Her family rallied behind her. Her mother especially stepped in, becoming a second pair of hands and a steady heart when Ikea needed rest. They say it takes a village, and Ikea had one. Grandparents, cousins, aunts, all played their part. But the lead was hers. She made the decisions. She changed the diapers. She set the tone. Friends noticed the shift. She was still Ikea. Funny, loyal, full of life. But now she carried herself with a deeper sense of responsibility. She wasn't just growing up. She was evolving. Ikea was one of the most loving people I've ever met, said one close friend. Even with everything she was juggling, she always made time for people. She was the type who would remember your birthday even if she hadn't slept in 2 days. Family echoed that sentiment. They described her as protective and present, someone who didn't just love loudly, but showed it. Photos from those final months show a proud young mother. Her phone's camera roll filled with selfies of her and Iceland, shots from drill team practice, and candid videos of her laughing, head back, carefree, in the few stolen moments of peace she managed to grab. She had the world ahead of her, a young woman stepping into adulthood with clear eyes and a full heart. And then, everything stopped. Whatever hopes Ikea had for her future, whatever milestones she planned to share with her daughter, graduation, birthdays, first steps, they were all frozen in time. Because someone who claimed to love her decided that if he couldn't control her future, he'd take it away entirely. At first glance, Trevon Wright had all the markings of a young man on the rise. In Dallas's crowded and competitive rap scene where image often speaks louder than lyrics, Trevon, who performed under the name Trap Boy Trig, was carving out a lane for himself. Flashy outfits, gold chains, a growing presence on social media, and music videos racking up thousands of views gave the impression that his star was only going to shine brighter. But beyond the stage lights and Instagram likes, there was another side to Trevon, one that didn't match the charisma he presented to the public. Ikea Hood met Trevon, as many young people do, through mutual friends and social circles at school. He was older, charming, with the kind of confidence that made people stop and listen. For a 17-year-old like Ikea, already mature beyond her years but still figuring out the world, Trevon's attention felt flattering. It wasn't long before the two started seeing each other. Their relationship was passionate but volatile. Friends would later describe the pair as on again, off again. One week they were close, the next they weren't speaking. It was the kind of relationship that didn't just live quietly in the background. It left echoes, arguments that spilled into public spaces. Instagram stories with vague captions, subtle jabs shared between posts, then deleted. Still, Ikea stayed. Maybe it was hope that things could change, maybe it was love, or maybe it was the shared responsibility of their child, Iceland, that kept bringing them back together. Even when things weren't working. But behind closed doors, the emotional strain was growing. While Ikea was focused on finishing school, raising her daughter, and building a life rooted in family and stability, Trevon's world revolved around his image, the music, the lifestyle, the attention. And as his following grew, so did his ego. He became increasingly jealous, possessive even. Sources close to Ikea said she sometimes felt like she was being watched or questioned over things that seemed trivial. A text from a friend, a photo with a cousin, even compliments left under her social media posts could trigger an argument. And when it came to Iceland, tensions exploded. Trevon allegedly began questioning whether he was truly the father. He'd bring it up during arguments, challenge Ikea's honesty, challenge her character. These weren't just offhanded remarks. They were cruel, deliberate attacks that left her shaken. According to people close to Ikea, these paternity disputes became the focal point of their conflict. No matter how many times she tried to reassure him, it was never enough. Still, she remained composed. She didn't blast him publicly. She didn't feed into the drama. She focused on her daughter, her school, and her dreams, even as the man she once cared for kept testing her limits. To the outside world, Trevon maintained his image, the hustling rapper, full of swagger, working his way up in the music game. His fans saw the jewelry, the lyrics, the confidence. They didn't see the accusations, the manipulation, the unraveling jealousy. This was a man trying to build a brand, while simultaneously tearing down the one person who believed in him more than anyone else. And while Ikea was quietly enduring the emotional whiplash, Trevon was slipping further into paranoia. It wasn't enough for him to leave the relationship. He wanted control over the narrative, over Ikea, over everything. And when it became clear that she was ready to move forward without him, he snapped. He made a decision that would end not only a life, but an entire future. In the days leading up to March 27, 2024, Ikea Hood was feeling emotionally drained, but firm in her decision. At just 17 years old, she was navigating life as a new mother, a high school student, and the former partner of someone who refused to believe the truth. Trevon Wright, her on and off boyfriend and the man she had once loved, was no longer just difficult. He had become unpredictable. For weeks, their relationship had been strained over a relentless dispute: the paternity of their daughter, Iselin. Despite being present during her pregnancy and even appearing in photos with the baby, Trevon began insisting that the child might not be his. According to those closest to Ikea, she had finally reached her limit. She decided to have an honest conversation with him. Calm, but firm, she told him the truth. He wasn't the father. No shouting, no threats. Just the truth. But for Trevon, the truth was a blow to his pride. To a 21-year-old trying to build a name for himself in the public eye, the idea that the baby he had claimed as his wasn't biologically his own felt humiliating. What should have been a private matter between two young parents became a moment of emotional collapse. That night, Trevon came to Ikea's home in Lancaster, Texas, reportedly to talk. It wasn't the first time. He was known to stop by. He had been in and out of her life for months. Nothing seemed unusual at first, but this time, he didn't come to talk. Around 9 p.m., neighbors recalled hearing loud voices, then a gunshot. Some thought it might have been a firework. Others weren't sure what they had heard. No one called the police right away. Inside the house, Ikea's door was locked. The following morning, as Ikea's mother prepared for the day, she knocked on her daughter's bedroom door. No response. She knocked again, still nothing. She tried to open it, but it was locked from the inside. Anxiety crept in. She called Ikea's name. Nothing. Then she noticed the window, slightly open, the curtains swaying. Panic set in. She managed to force the door open, and that's when she saw her daughter, lying motionless. Shot in the head. Her daughter, her child, gone. The baby Iselin was in the home but unharmed. She had been there, just feet away, as her mother was killed. The house was instantly flooded with sirens. Yellow tape went up. Detectives, forensic teams, and neighbors swarmed outside. But the horror inside that home couldn't be measured in evidence bags or chalk outlines. It was a pain that rippled outward, from a grieving mother to an entire community asking why. It didn't take long for Trevon Wright's name to come up. When officers located him later that day, he was carrying a gun. Ballistics would later confirm it was the weapon used to take Ikea's life. He was arrested without incident and charged with murder. The young rapper, who just weeks earlier had been posting videos about his music career, was now behind bars, facing the weight of a life lost too soon. Lancaster High School was shattered. The Tigerette drill team wore ribbons in her honor. Teachers, classmates, and staff described Ikea as warm, loving, and resilient. She had a future, one teacher said, and she fought so hard for it. The community held vigils. Her friends posted tributes online, calling for justice. The name Ikea Hood trended in the local Dallas-Fort Worth area, not for her dance performances or her smile, but for the unthinkable way her story had ended. Trevon's mugshot made the rounds. Headlines called him a rising Dallas rapper. But behind the music was a man who couldn't control his rage. A man who allowed jealousy and ego to override love, logic, and human decency. There were warning signs, moments that now seem chilling in hindsight. Possessive behaviors, doubts thrown like darts, emotional volatility masked by swagger. And for Ikea, it built slowly, quietly, until it became fatal. This wasn't just a paternity dispute. This was domestic violence, hidden in plain sight. And now, a little girl will grow up without her mother. A family has been shattered, and a community is left wondering how such a promising life could be stolen in a single, selfish moment. To our viewers, if you or someone you know is experiencing controlling behavior, emotional manipulation, or threats within a relationship, please don't ignore it. Speak up. Reach out. Your safety matters, and you don't have to go through it alone. In the immediate aftermath of Ikea Hood's tragic death, the Lancaster community was engulfed in grief and disbelief. As the news spread, law enforcement agencies swiftly initiated a manhunt for the prime suspect, 17-year-old Trevon Wright, Ikea's on-again, off-again boyfriend. According to an arrest affidavit, Ikea had planned to inform Wright that he was not the biological father of her newborn daughter. This revelation was believed to be the catalyst for the fatal confrontation. Witnesses reported seeing Wright at Ikea's residence on the morning of the incident, and her mother recounted hearing a loud noise around 10:30 a.m., shortly before discovering her daughter's lifeless body. The urgency to locate Wright intensified as investigators pieced together the timeline of events. Despite the lack of immediate leads, the collaborative efforts of local law enforcement and the U.S. Marshals Task Force proved effective. On January 9, 2024, just 2 days after the shooting, Wright was apprehended and booked into the Dallas County Jail on charges of first-degree murder. The arrest brought a semblance of relief to a grieving community, but it also marked the beginning of a complex legal journey. Wright's arrest affidavit detailed the tumultuous nature of his relationship with Ikea, highlighting a history of volatility and unresolved disputes. The document also underscored the significance of the paternity revelation, suggesting it played a pivotal role in the tragic outcome. As the legal proceedings commenced, both families grappled with the emotional toll of the situation. Ikea's family mourned the loss of a vibrant young woman whose life was abruptly cut short, while Wright's family faced the harsh reality of their son's involvement in a heinous crime. The community, too, was left to reconcile the dual narratives of a promising student and a budding rapper entangled in a fatal encounter. The case garnered significant media attention, with local news outlets providing ongoing coverage of the developments. The public's interest in the proceedings underscored the broader societal concerns surrounding domestic violence and the importance of addressing such issues proactively. In the months that followed, the legal process unfolded with meticulous scrutiny. Wright's defense team prepared to contest the charges, while prosecutors built a case centered on the evidence gathered during the investigation. The community awaited the trial's outcome, hoping for justice and closure in the wake of an unfathomable tragedy. The trial of Trevon Wright for the murder of Ikea Hood captivated the Lancaster community and beyond, drawing media attention and sparking conversations about domestic violence and the complexities of relationships. After months of anticipation, the case finally reached the courtroom, and emotions ran high as the legal battle unfolded. The trial began with the prosecution laying out its case, painting a picture of a volatile relationship that spiraled into tragedy. They presented testimony from Ikea's mother, who had discovered her daughter's lifeless body in her bedroom. The emotional testimony recounted the horrific moment when she entered Ikea's room to find the door locked, the window ajar, and her daughter gone. The chilling details left many in the courtroom visibly shaken. Additionally, the prosecution brought forward key witnesses and experts to establish that Trevon Wright had been the last person to see Ikea alive and had significant motives tied to the paternity of her child. It was revealed that Ikea had planned to inform Trevon that he was not the father of her baby, a revelation that seemed to fuel the volatile confrontation leading up to her murder. They also emphasized Wright's history of emotional instability and the tension that had been building between the couple. On the defense side, Trevon's legal team attempted to offer a different narrative. They argued that the shooting was not premeditated, but rather the result of a sudden, heated argument. Wright's defense claimed that he acted out of intense emotional distress and that he never intended to take Ikea's life. His attorneys attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's assertions by claiming that the evidence did not conclusively prove his intent to kill. However, despite these efforts, the prosecution presented damning evidence, including ballistics reports and forensic analysis, which linked Wright directly to the crime scene.
Tells Keenan Willard her mother's testimony today could be key in court.
And today, multiple family members of Ikea Hood took the stand here, breaking down as they described what they found at the scene moments after her death. Today, some experts tell us that emotional testimony could play a big role in this trial.
In front of a Dallas judge today, Takoya Lester described the moment she found her daughter dead in her bedroom.
It's her. I stopped in the window and I touched the baby and I grabbed her hair. I couldn't see all of it.
The jury was tasked with determining whether his actions were a crime of passion or premeditated murder. After several days of testimony and deliberation, the jury returned to deliver their verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the judge called for order. In a unanimous decision, Trevon Wright was found guilty of first-degree murder. The verdict was met with a wave of relief from Ikea's family, who had spent months waiting for justice. Judge Daniels, who presided over the case, offered a stern statement before sentencing. He highlighted the brutal nature of the crime and the profound impact it had on Ikea's family, her friends, and the entire community. The judge remarked on the senselessness of the act and the life that had been stolen from a young woman with so much potential. He also acknowledged the troubling pattern of domestic violence that had tragically culminated in Ikea's death. Wright was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The severity of the sentence reflected the court's determination to send a clear message about the consequences of domestic violence and the sanctity of life. The verdict brought a mix of emotions for Ikea's family. While they expressed relief that justice had been served, the pain of losing Ikea, especially in such a violent manner, remained all-consuming. Ikea's mother, visibly emotional, spoke to the press after the trial. She thanked the community for their support and expressed her sorrow that her daughter's life had been so senselessly cut short. Ikea was full of promise, full of life, her mother said. She didn't deserve this. No one deserves this. Her words resonated with the grieving family members and friends who attended the trial. The community of Lancaster, which had rallied behind Ikea's family, also reacted with mixed emotions. While there was a sense of closure, many grappled with the realization that a promising young life had been stolen in an act of violence that could have been avoided. The local school district held a memorial service in Ikea's honor, where students and faculty paid tribute to her memory and discussed the importance of addressing domestic violence. In the days that followed, many in the community reflected on the toxic patterns that often remain hidden behind closed doors. Ikea's death became a catalyst for conversations about the need for early intervention, awareness, and support systems for those in abusive relationships. The trial concluded, but the impact on the family, the community, and the viewers of the case remains profound. Ikea Hood's story serves as a powerful reminder of the destructive potential of domestic violence and the importance of recognizing the signs before it's too late. The tragic death of Ikea Hood sent shockwaves through the Lancaster community, leaving a deep void in the hearts of all who knew her. As the realization of what had happened settled in, the community rallied together to honor her life, ensuring that her memory would not fade with time. The community's efforts to memorialize Ikea were both heartfelt and overwhelming. A series of balloon releases took place at local parks and public spaces, with friends, family, and even strangers gathering to release balloons in her honor. Each balloon carried a personal message, a symbol of love and remembrance for a young woman whose life had been so brutally taken. These gatherings were often quiet, reflective moments, where people stood together, not just to mourn but to affirm the beauty of Ikea's life. Vigils followed, with dozens of attendees lighting candles in her memory. At each vigil, Ikea's family shared stories about the vibrant, determined young woman she had been. A speaker often took the stage to remind the crowd about the importance of supporting victims of domestic violence and advocating for healthier relationships. The vigils were a powerful reminder that Ikea was more than the tragic circumstances of her death. She was a daughter, a friend, a mother, and a promising young woman with so much potential. Fundraisers were organized in the wake of Ikea's passing, with proceeds dedicated to both memorial costs and supporting causes related to domestic violence awareness. The Lancaster community came together to create events like charity walks, car washes, and silent auctions. All funds raised went directly toward supporting victims of domestic violence and offering support to Ikea's surviving family members, including her daughter, Iselin. In addition to public memorials, the community also focused on ensuring that Ikea's daughter, Iselin, received the support she needed. Local organizations and individuals banded together to provide financial assistance to Iselin's family, creating trust funds and setting up donation sites for those who wanted to contribute to her future. Friends of Ikea's family organized gift drives, providing essential items like clothing and toys for Iselin as she grew. Family members played a crucial role in supporting Iselin through this difficult time. Ikea's family, particularly her mother, made sure that Iselin would grow up surrounded by love and care. Many within the community offered to help raise Aislinn, pledging to give her a childhood filled with the affection and nurturing that Ikea would have wanted for her. Though nothing could replace the loss of Ikea, the strength of the Lancaster community was evident in their commitment to her daughter's future. The outpouring of love, support, and determination to honor Ikea's legacy helped bring some measure of peace to a town reeling from such an immense tragedy. The tragic death of Ikea Hood underscores a vital issue that often remains hidden behind closed doors: domestic violence. In relationships marked by abuse, the signs are not always immediately obvious, but there are patterns that can be identified if we know what to look for. Abusive partners often employ tactics like emotional manipulation, control, and intimidation to break their victims down, making it harder for them to leave or seek help. Some common signs of domestic violence include jealousy, possessiveness, extreme mood swings, threats, or verbal assaults that gradually escalate into physical violence. The power imbalance in abusive relationships is frequently compounded by fear, making victims feel trapped. These dynamics often go unnoticed by friends, family, and even the victims themselves, who may be ashamed or afraid to speak out. In Ikea's case, the signs of strain in her relationship with Trevon Wright may have been present before things escalated to violence. The circumstances surrounding her death are a sobering reminder of how quickly these patterns can take a fatal turn. It is essential to recognize the early signs of abuse, provide support for those in need, and create spaces where individuals feel safe enough to seek help. Ikea Hood was a young mother, only 17 years old at the time of her death, and navigating the complex challenges of early parenthood. The pressures of being a new mother, coupled with the instability of a turbulent relationship, can be overwhelming. In addition to the emotional and financial stress of raising a child, young couples often face societal pressures to succeed, all while juggling school, work, and personal aspirations. This can create a toxic environment where mental health struggles are either ignored or go unaddressed.
A young mother is dead, and right now family and students are coming together at Lancaster High School to remember Ikea Hood. Steve Pickett live for us outside the school. Steve, what can you tell us?
Well, the heartbreak here that has impacted this community, folks willing to support this young woman who was killed, only 17 years of age. You can see all of those who have responded here to this location, bringing posters, bringing balloons, all in support of this victim. And by the way, her baby girl, this 17-year-old, was a mother who was killed in all of this. This appears to be a case of deadly domestic violence, and everyone here is here to show support for that victim. Her former boyfriend, we're told, now accused of killing her. Now, this is the victim. Her name is Ikea Wood. She's 17 years of age. She died on Monday after being shot while inside her far southwest Dallas house. This happened on Monday. Lancaster School District officials telling us Miss Ikea Hood, she was a very popular student here. We can see it manifested by so many here today, involved in the school's dance and drill team. She was also a young mother, giving birth to a baby girl very recently. Now, an arrest warrant for murder. It identifies this young man, 19 years of age. His name is Trevon Wright, now the accused killer. He is a former boyfriend. The affidavit that we saw today indicates Ikea had planned on telling Trevon Wright that he was not the father of her newborn baby girl. Now, the victim's mother told detectives, based on what we saw in that affidavit, that Mr. Wright was in their home when she heard gunfire. He is now in custody, being held on a $500,000 bond for that murder.
Mental health is an issue that affects people of all ages, but it is especially critical for young individuals in high-stress situations like Ikea. She was still in high school, with dreams of becoming a dancer and building a future for herself and her daughter. However, the pressures of her personal life, combined with the complexities of being a new mother, may have contributed to a mental and emotional toll that wasn't adequately addressed. For young couples facing similar challenges, it is vital that mental health resources are made accessible. Counseling, community support, and open communication are crucial tools for managing the emotional stress that comes with relationships and parenthood. In the wake of Ikea Hood's tragic death, it's essential that we take steps to educate ourselves and others about the signs of domestic violence and the importance of healthy, supportive relationships. There are numerous organizations dedicated to preventing domestic violence, offering resources for both victims and those at risk of becoming abusers. Support services, such as counseling and shelters, provide a lifeline for those who may be trapped in dangerous situations. By supporting these organizations, whether through donations, volunteering, or simply spreading awareness, we can help create a safer world for those at risk. Additionally, it's crucial to normalize conversations about mental health, particularly in the context of relationships and parenthood. Every individual, especially young couples, deserves access to mental health resources to help navigate the stresses of life and prevent tragic outcomes.